Hello, NeXT community. I wanted to show you my first attempt here at printing a part for NeXT computers, and this would be for the Brian Archer's sound cards. And what I did is I tried to include all of the parts onto one build plate. And I suspect the one part that's throwing spaghetti is not level with the plate. It's like in 3D software, you have to make sure all of your components are set to, your elevation is set to the build plate. And so we'll just kind of watch it here, and you can see what happens. And I've been trying to extract some of the spaghetti. I know it's not normal to do that, but since this is my first print, I'm just kind of learning the ropes. But it seems to me there should be a way to pause this thing. And ideally, if you know it's just one component out of your model that's on this plate, it'd be great if you could pause it and then just can the print process for that particular component. And then you don't have to throw out the whole, print, which seems to would be a big waste, and I'm sure it happens a lot. That's the first thing I've noticed here. And the second would be maybe have a little tool specifically for extracting the spaghetti in case that does happen. And they say, if the first layer prints, you're in business. And all of the other parts are printing just fine. I've got the feet up here up front, and then the bottom and the top, and then the back plate, which is a thin part over here on the right. So if anything, I can salvage that of these feet, because they aren't very, tall. And perhaps one of the two, either the top or the bottom, I forget which one is the less of the two on the wall. As you can see, what happens when it throws down this part, that's where the spaghetti comes into play. And I think that's on me. And so what I've kind of been doing is I just grab a screwdriver here and I kind of hook this thing. I pull it the hell out of there. I don't know if that's taboo, but hey, this filament's not cheap, and I'm learning. So, it seems to work, but it'd be a pain to sit here with the, let's see if I get to the screen over here. It says it's 36% done. So these prints take about 2 hours. Another thing I really like about this Bambu printer is you can watch it live, right? So there's a Bambu Handy app. So if I'm upstairs, I can watch it live. And if I see it, I think there's even a spaghetti alert on here, which I don't know if I have that set up right. This is my very first print from a file that I made on the software. And there were like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, about 8 different parts. And I tried to combine them all into one print, which I think will work if I get the elevation right, as I say, on the main component. It was a pretty tight fit for everything, but I may just wind up doing these 7 of the 8 components and then putting that one separately. And that should take care of the spaghetti problem on any future prints. But I'm fascinated by this, so I think I want to watch the whole process. I won't put you through that, but overall, this thing's pretty impressive. It does self-leveling. I ordered a bunch of different types of filaments, and so this is the PLA Basic that came with the printer. And, I've been talking to a lot of makers, and they say the different filaments at different temperatures affect how things turn out. Some of them are flexible, some of them are good for outdoor use, Some of them are good for making parts. And it looks like I could even use metal filament, and it puts it down, and then you can take it over to a kiln, right? And it's called synthing, and it burns away everything, and it just leaves you with the metal. That's one way to do it. And another is you can make molds, right? So you have the 3D printed part, and then drop it in. A guy described going and getting steel cylinders for like vents from Home Depot, and then plaster. And you put the plaster in, you know, you get a cap for your it's like a giant soup can. So you put a cap on it, drop your 3D print in there, and then put the plaster around it, let it set. And there's a low temperature, I think it begins with a Z, metal that has a lower melting point than aluminum. And it's pretty neat. You can pour it in, you know. Well, first you put the plaster with the 3D part that burns away in a kiln. And he was recommending there's one filament out now that leaves no dust. And I was thinking of picking up a kiln. It looks like it was a $2,000 kiln, and they have it on, I think it's like Craigslist for $125. And so I could use that in theory if I want to make metal parts. But to get back to the mold, once it's everything's burned away, then you have a plaster mold, and then you can use this, you melt the metal, and you just simply pour it into your mold. And then I think you just let it set up. I wasn't sure if you had to fire that again in the kiln. I think you might have to. And then once it's fired, then you can crack away your mold, and you've got, he was showing he did it like a metal triceratops, all kinds of stuff. But at any rate, I mean, this is pretty cool. It's fascinating for me to watch this. And I think the technology has gotten far enough along. All of the online videos that I'm watching, I know that I chose the right printer for this year. And it is light years ahead of even stuff, you know, from 2 years ago. Another thing I'm trying to do is get it set up so it's recognized on Wi-Fi. They currently have this thing at 2.4 gigahertz, and I think my network's running 5.8. So I tried to drop it down to 2.4. The other style of printers, I'm thinking there's going to be a firmware update for this one that will allow me to just enter a code that will appear on the screen. Here comes our spaghetti again, as you can see. Yeah, if there was a way just to put the NeXT on, pause this thing, then you wouldn't have to lose your whole print and have this bullshit happen. I'm really not sure how hot that plate is, but, you know, if I could just pull the spaghetti out, worst comes to worst, hey, it's my first print. I expected something like this to happen. And I really kind of pushed the envelope by combining all these different parts. But I've got a fair understanding of CAD. And this software, it's called, I believe it's Bambu Studio, is pretty straightforward, and it's neat. You can paint in and print multiple colors. It's kind of like paint by numbers, only on 3D. And you have an X, Y, and Z axis. But the key is your main objects need to be level with your hot plate here, that the filaments being added to. I mean, this printer has a lot of different features. As I say, it has a camera, Wi-Fi, and it also has LiDAR, which is pretty neat. And from my understanding, there is a way to do use an iPhone and take high-resolution photos and create a 3D model, right, in Bambu Studio, and then you know, it kind of puts them all together like a jigsaw puzzle, and you can create an STL file. The STL file is kind of your 3D file. Another thing that threw me was they've got a little SD card, right? And so in the software, I mean, I'm literally a noob with all this stuff. So if you're a seasoned vet, you know, you're probably laughing a little bit and probably went through this. So I didn't realize that you had to create code. And the way you do that, the software is called Slicer. And with the Bambu Labs, it runs it through. And that's why I'm a little confused, because it ran it through the Slicer software and there were no alarms. And I think in that Slicer software, you know, obviously with this particular file, I can take it back into Studio and I can just drop out the part that's throwing the spaghetti at us. Or I could try and see if it's just a little bit cockaroo. And, you know, and fix the problem. But I might, you know, now that I'm into it, I'm 42% in, as you can see over here. This is kind of neat too, so it's got a timer. It tells you the temperature. It even gave me a warning to go ahead and open the door. I'm a little concerned if it has me open the door, although Bella's an old cat. But when I get a kid, they're obviously going to be curious as hell. So I'm going to have to set this thing up to make it cat-proof, because this damn thing will no doubt attract a curious cat, and that bed gets pretty hot. Now granted, it may only take one time of them swatting the thing, but I don't want to burn a kitten's paws. Maybe some of you out there have an idea on that, you know, hook up some kind of device that makes a noise. So if your cat does jump up on the printer, you can have, maybe I can make a 3D part, you know, make a little buzzer or make a noise to scare them off. That's something I could probably sell to cat owners. What do you think, Bella? I mean, she's swarming around my feet here. And, you know, has been pretty curious, but she's so old she can't jump up on stuff now. Unless she went around the back, and there might be a way she could snake in that way. But so far, if I just keep her, you know, occupied, she hasn't even noticed it, I think. So that being said, what do we got? About 13 minutes, and it says, what is our time over there? Oh, the time just went off the screen. So you just press it and it comes back on. It tells you how many elements are done. I think there is still over an hour, maybe. I can try and zoom in. Yeah, the quality's kind of blurred, probably with the low light. And I may have smudged the lens, so I'm going to have to try and clean that up. Let's see if I back it up if things improve in focus. I mean, it's not too bad. All right, well, stay tuned. More fun stuff to come from the black hole. Now that I know I've got a handle on the software, I've kind of overcome that learning curve. So the millions of models out there are at my fingertips. I have a bunch of cool filaments coming in. And here comes our spaghetti again, probably. Look at that. God dang, man. I can see this turning into like a clusterfuck for a lot of people. I got it. See, I'm getting good with the screwdriver, man. This might be a tip for even the seasoned vet. We mean we can do that? I need like a little extractor of some sort. Maybe kind of like a vacuum or something with attachment. Get the spaghetti shit out of there. As I say, if there was a way, because it shows you all the pieces, and if you press that red button, it stops the whole, or discards the whole print. And I really don't want to do that. They should be able to create a way to just pause it for a second, And if you're having a problem with one of those elements in the screen, and it's this one, let's see, it's that one right there. That's creating our spaghetti. So if you could pause it and just drop that element out, you know, it's all touchscreen, so you can just highlight it. Even that way, you know, on the screen there, just kind of click it, and then it would know to delete it, you know, give you an option. I would think they'd be able to write that into the software, and then it would just drop, you know, the printer would know just to ignore it. See, my first day, first print, I'm already thinking of cool stuff. So, at any rate, stay tuned, more fun stuff to come from the black hole as I battle this spaghetti monster, they call it. Oh, and the stuff that comes out the back of the printer, it's got a poop chute. They actually call it poo-poo. So I'm creating lots of poo-poo spaghetti, apparently. Hey, you know, if y'all are looking at getting into 3D printing, this printer, you know, now I'm about $2,000 in. So the printer itself is about $1,300. But this is the Cadillac. I mean, you can get 3D printers and assemble them yourself. There's probably a lot of used stuff on the market. But what I like about this, former roommate, I watched him struggle building his own printer, right? And then doing all, having to hand level and all that stuff. And I just don't have time. In the future, I may do it, you know, just for experience. But I wanted to get up on, you know, and running because I need these sound boxes. And I was getting charged an arm and a leg, you know, at times for them. Not any fault of the makers, you know, the guys, you know, they've done a great job, and I realize there's labor involved. And if stuff like this spaghetti happens, it can be a real hassle, you know. And so now I can do this stuff in-house, which, you know, I can kind of start this and then work on my other stuff. And I've got the room set up now where everything's a lot easier for me to do. I'll have my hip replaced here. You know, I could even make a hip replacement part and have them put it in. Just kidding. I'm sure it's possible, though. I'm going to have fun making 3D models. That's the other thing. I understand how the software works now, so that's going to be kind of cool to design my own things. They have contests, and you can get, like, you know, you boost, and, you know, I'll look at other models and give people kudos because there is some amazing stuff out there. So I'm happy to be part of the maker world. I think that's what we're called. And, you know, it's going to be a lot of fun. This will be something I'll do the rest of my life. And I'm 61. I wish this would have been around 20 or 30 years ago. I remember I worked in a wood shop, right, back in 1981. And we had one of the first computerized lathe processes that we came up with. So we had 9 different blades, and we had a, it was like a laser that would read a giant blueprint that you'd have set up next to this huge lathe. We could even make columns like 30 feet long. And so the blades would successively go through, and you'd put the, you know, the big post on there. So, you know, we'd make, I did a bunch of balusters, not the banister, the baluster or the posts, out of mahogany for the CU Law Library that are probably still there. And so we had it so it would go through 9 different cuts. And let me tell you, we moved that thing over to the lathe, and I was, you know, just, I think it might have been even 80. I was still in high school, so it was like a summer job. And so the lathe, you know, spinning at, you know, 1,500 RPM, had square ends. And so my job was to do the fine sanding on these mahogany balusters, and they turned out sweet. But if you lost your concentration even for a fraction of a second, there goes a chunk out of your hand. So I still have all these little scars, you know, from 40 plus years ago. And from working that job, I only worked there maybe 2 months. I just didn't want to lose a finger, you know, in that environment. You know, I was kind of, it was cool, the projects, you know, a lot of satisfaction when you're getting them out there, and then to go see it in the Lob Library, you know, that was cool satisfaction. But, you know, it wasn't going to be my permanent job. And, you know, I know a lot of friends of mine are woodworkers, and like, you know, my Uncle John, you know, rest in peace, and you know, my dad, rest in peace. And, you know, we got his celebration of life coming up here in a few weeks. But, you know, my Uncle John was, you know, he used to make these custom birdhouses, and he lost a finger one day. And, you know, and they were able to sew it back on, but he also played stand-up bass. And he said it, you know, it just drove him nuts. So, but the technology's getting better, medicine's getting better, and, you know, so I hope my hip replacement goes smooth. But I can see how I mean, this is so detailed, how they really can create 3D parts for just about everything, including human replacement parts. So the future is bright for 3D printing. And I'm just amazed at how precise this particular unit is. I ordered a bunch of different filaments, as I say. Some of them are really neat. So they have, like, one's called Galaxy, so it looks like stars are within it. I got a bunch of different metal ones. You know, because Bambu was having a sale. And then you can also use these special filaments that'll put, like, holograms in your print. And then I got a couple different, you know, these build plates themselves that have patterns. Okay, here goes the spaghetti again, right? And it looks like if I get it real quick, I can kind of get it and just like, boom. I still missed a piece over here, and I'm a little hesitant going this far up, but I'll try. No, that one's probably going to be baked in. I guarantee that'll be the first thing Todd, my former roommate, oh, I see you have some spaghetti here. Come on, man, it's my first friend. At any rate, yeah, this is turning into a, you know, well, we're at 50%. As I say, I'll go ahead and call it. You know, you might be able to use this as a sleeping video too. The smooth sounds of the 3D printer. So, and it actually could be kind of soothing, you know. It's how boring is this? And, you know, you kind of just, wow, man. Oh, the filaments, what else did I get? I got glow in the dark. That's going to be neat. So I figured I could make some glow in the dark stars, you know, put on the ceiling. Guitar picks. You know, I'll have lots of little characters. I made my little dinosaur. He turned out cool. Yeah, there was a part missing. So I think I could go back and actually break apart the puzzle and just pick that part and 3D print it. And I guess I could have added that to this, you know, since it was such a small part, I could have put it on this template that I created. But the cool thing about these templates is I'll be able to store them in a library. So once I have a working template, I'll never have to do it again. And then I can also experiment with the different filaments. And then with the Bambu, it lets you assign the different parts to different filaments. And I've got this, it's called the AWS system up here. If I were doing, I'll do one in the day, but I'll show you. So it automatically loads and spools your filaments, which I understand is another thing. It automatically clips it for you. And then it can go through, it can do up to 16 colors. And so with your 3D drawing, you can go in and paint different parts. So it'll automatically drop in and do the different filaments, you know, in different layers. So I'm going to be doing some pretty cool stuff here. As I say, you know, I'm kind of like Lawnmower Man, that movie where the guy keeps learning more and more. I mean, I'm kind of bummed that I've got that one part that's throwing the spaghetti. But all right, stay tuned. What's more? More fun stuff to come from the black hole. I'm going to go ahead and upload. Appreciate everybody's time. Have a good day, evening.